when in doubt, involve YouTube. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for coming out today to our annual training session, review session. We appreciate that. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day. And welcome back to another season at the Gallagher Bluehorn. Our first event for scheduled ushers is next Thursday. We are just about done with the schedule. We did a huge amount of work with it. The students who were on Monday did a ton of work with it. And there's just a couple things for us to finish up tomorrow. So I think we will actually start, we'll start creating all the files. It might take us another day to get them pushed out and emailed because there's a little bit of setup on the back end for that. But yeah, we should definitely have it out by the end of the week. We will call the people that are assigned for next Thursday so that you get a little bit more notice than it showing up on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Saturday, Monday in your mail. We will both, well, we'll skip that slide when we get there. On the schedule, we will both be emailing it and snail mailing it because it is kind of the biggest thing we do. We did that last year and thought that was a better idea. So if you're having any sort of trouble with your email, you don't have to worry about it. You're still going to get a copy of your schedule. But we're just going to send one copy, so you don't have to send a copy back to us or anything. When you get that, look it over. If there's anything you've been scheduled for that is either something that you marked by mistake, so you don't want it, or now it doesn't work for you, just give us a call or an email right away, and we'll get you taken off of it. So don't have to worry about that. We do make mistakes. It's all a bunch of check boxes to us, so it's easy. In fact, a couple people's actually all got inserted twice because I have a new version of Access on my computer, and it's a little bit different. So I accidentally inputted some people's schedule twice. So I don't think you'll get scheduled twice for the same show because we're trying to fix it. But if that happens, let me know. Because obviously you can only fill one spot. You can try to be two people. Okay. Obviously, I hope you still remember Kelly. Kelly's still here with us, doing probably more than I am anymore these days. So Kelly's still around, thankfully. And we're now a package deal. If she goes, I go. And I think if I go, she goes is kind of how it works. So just be prepared for that. If that should happen, good luck. Speaking of everybody going, our event management team, by this time next year, all of those folks you see listed there will have graduated. So Maggie, Emily, Haley, and Liz are all coming back. They worked with us last year, and Anna is the most recent add. She started in the spring, did some stuff, has done a lot this summer, helped Kelly run all of her conferences this summer. So you'll see more of Anna this year. So Haley graduates in December, so we lose her right away. Maggie, Emily, and Anna, and Liz are all on, I think, the May 2018 plan. So yeah, by this time next year, we'll have a whole new team. So we'll, over the course of the year, you'll probably see some new student faces who will be learning the ropes. Be nice to them. Be nice to all of them, actually, please. They only get paid, they don't get paid, they get paid decent. But you could probably get the same thing working at Barnes & Noble or something. But we love them. And we're glad they're still here with us. Okay, I just talked about schedules. We're good there. Contact information update. About the time that we sent out the email sign-up list for signing up for shows, we also sent you an email with the contact information as we have it. So if you have not responded to that email, please do. If all that information is correct, just let us know that yes, this is all correct. If not, give us any updates. You can also give us a call, and we can double check what we have in the database for you. It's just once a year we try to go through and get that all updated so we have right information and make sure everybody's getting our emails and our phone calls and stuff like that. Also, last Thursday at the first session, earlier that day, I had the idea of I'm using with the Valley students a text messaging service, and I kind of asked for a show of hands if there were some people that would like to do that. So we're going to be offering a text update sort of thing, and it'll just be like if we add a show, or if we need extra help, or if we're cancel a show, that sort of thing, and we'll kind of figure out what that's going to be and send that out, and then give you the instructions for how you could opt into it. So yeah, we're going to add that as well. It's just another, this will not replace anything. We'll still email, we'll still do the phone calls when stuff is canceled. This is just another layer if you're interested. Now that everybody has devices that can do all sorts of things, we just want to make everything available. So my doctor's office now texts me instead of calls me for doctor appointments, and I thought, well, I suppose this is the way of the future, right? The school district, my daughter starts kindergarten in a couple of weeks. And the school district has called and emailed me 4 times to remind me to register her. Well, I already registered her back a couple of months ago when we did the kindergarten roundup. But yeah, they're definitely on top of the communication. So I'm sure I'll get text messages once she's in the school. Name badges and polos. Again, this is our once-a-year reminder. We did all new name badges last year. If you've lost yours, broken it, whatever, just let us know. I think, I hope we had a sign-up sheet out there. Okay, so just get your name on that if you need one of those, or if you're interested in the polo, and we'll get that all put together. We're making those in-house, so you should be able to turn those around by the time you work a show. We'll get going on those next week. Okay, so speaking of polos, let's just do a little reminder on the dress code. I think I talk about this every year. Nothing's changed. Just a reminder, white on top, black on bottom. White means white, not off-white, not ecru, not eggshell, and not green. Yes?
I have a question about when it's really warm out, can the ladies wear capri pants? Now by capri pants, I mean like right below the knees, not exercise pants, just good capri. I mean, I've worn them before, and some ladies have wondered about it. Is that?
That's a good question. Yeah, let Kelly and I think about it, just because that's a new one I haven't been asked before. So let's just kind of think through it. Obviously, the purpose behind all of this is that people are clearly identifiable, and we want people to be comfortable and stuff like that. So let us just kind of evaluate that. Yep, that makes sense. And then black on bottom, pants, slacks, we'll check on this and let you know. And then the other thing that comes up a lot for questions is appropriate accessories, or I call it flair, which is a movie quote from I don't even remember where. Obviously holiday themed or related to the show, like the kids shows, some people have like character ties and stuff they like to wear. This is all fine. So we're fine with that. It's a way to express yourself when everybody's wearing the same white and black. We just want to maintain that kind of professional look, that consistent look. So we don't want anything super obnoxious. And by and large, we haven't had too many issues with this. And I say, just if you're concerned, just ask. I've had lots of people ask me, what about this, what about that, and we just kind of make a determination. If it's on the night of the show, that lies with the house manager. And if it's one of the students, they're going to ask us later anyway because they have. So we don't have a ton of issues with that, but enough that I keep it in here. It happens every time. We've got some newer folks in the mix too. They're still kind of figuring it out. So just kind of make sure that you got all that. Phone numbers. This is the same as last year, and we'll email this out as well, so you don't have to worry about copying anything down. I opted against handouts today because it's kind of similar information that we just need to review and refresh. The stuff like this that is good to have, we'll email out a list of these phone numbers, but nothing's changed. I will say this house manager phone thing was a new idea last year, and I'm keeping it, but the problem is the house manager, more often than not, including myself, forgets to carry the phone. So don't be alarmed if you're leaving a message, because we will get the word, and we just kind of roll with it if somebody hasn't signed in, and we'll kind of go back and check the messages. So as long as you've left a message, you're good. You don't have to worry about actually talking to someone. The other thing is if they're in the middle of the extra meeting or something, they're not going to be able to answer you anyway. But just give us a call and let us know if something's happened, and that way When the dust does settle, we're not worried about you being in the hospital or in a ditch somewhere. Okay. A few more customer service / kind of job duty things to review. Remember, during the intermission, we're working, well, let me back up a little bit. When you're here working as an usher, we're working the entire event. So that's the usher meeting all the way through the start of the show, all the way through the intermission, all the way through the end of the show. So yes, we get a chance to watch the show, and that's fine and great. It's the big perk for being an usher at the Gallery of Dorn. But remember that we still have a job to do throughout all of that, and that job is welcoming and taking care of our guests that are here with us. So please don't lose sight of that as you're getting through the event. So specifically at intermission, remember you still have a job to do. Be present, be around, be aware of folks that might have questions or need assistance. Make sure if you aren't sitting at the location you were assigned, that you return there. If you're in the lobby, that you return back down to the lobby to assist folks. We have to at least have one per door at an intermission. So if there are multiple of you assigned, or if someone needs to use the restroom or something like that, just make sure there's at least one person in each spot. And obviously, we know that you know lots of folks and they're here attending shows, and we're not saying you can't chit-chat with your friends, but again, be aware that folks still need assistance around you, that you're the one that's there to provide that. So, not at the expense of service.
I have a question.
Yeah?
One time I came here as a patron, and there was nobody at one of the doors. And it was intermission, so I opened the door. But I think they
Thank you.
understand if they're assigned to that door, someone should be there all the time.
Yes, that's during the show, and there always has to be somebody at every door. So if you're for some reason the only person assigned to a door and something were to come up, you got to make sure, tell the floor captain or something that door's uncovered, because there needs to be somebody at every door all the time. That's part of the fire code and safety stuff that we're going to get to in a little bit. But there needs to be an usher at every door the entire show. So if it's a sold-out show and we have extra folks, the extra ones can go find another location, but 1 to 2 people have to stay at the door. Thank you. Speaking of, I added this one. So for probably as many years as we've had folding chairs, Krista, Zika, and I have exchanged opinions over whether or not the usher should be using them in the hall. And my position has always been the ushers need a place to sit, especially during sold-out shows. Asking them to stand the entire time is not very plausible. And he's always come with safety concerns, which are absolutely valid and important. And for the longest time, he would tell me anytime chairs got left, and we would take care of it, and I would remind the folks. This came to another interesting scenario this year. So he was actually moving some equipment through, I think it was this vestibule right over here, and it was dark, and he tripped and fell over some folding chairs that got left. And so he thankfully was not seriously injured, but it reiterated this concern, and I promised I'd make a big deal about it. So here's my big deal. The deal is, you guys want a chair to sit on, and we want you to have that, but we can't do it at the expense of safety. So door 2 and 5 are probably the biggest culprits. Don't stick that chair in the curtain pocket. Take it back out when you're done. When they get stuck in the curtain pocket, these curtains go in and out of there 5 times a week when we're busy. And the chairs in there, they get hung up on them, we can tear the curtains. That's not a hiding spot for a chair, it's a storage area for the curtain. So it is absolutely fine that you use a folding chair so that you have a place to sit, but please, please, please return it to the lobby when you're done. And if you happen to find a chair that you didn't put there, please also grab it and take it back to the lobby. The racks are almost always in the alcove over here, and there are also some in the stairwells over here. But even if you just set it out in the hallway, we'll see it and we can grab it. But don't leave it in here, because that's where we don't see it and it doesn't get grabbed. Okay, so please help us out with that. Help Chris as he can not trip over another chair. Help me not hear about it? No. It's just one of those things we've always gone back and forth about because we get it, right? I get the safety stuff and he understands why the ushers, we get it. It's just one of those things we like to tease each other about a little bit. As long as nobody gets seriously hurt, right? Because then it's not fun anymore. A reminder on parking. Parking is always in the B lot south of University. And in that, when you park in that area, if you should happen to receive a ticket, which you should not, but if you're parked over there in the B lot south of University and you get a ticket, bring it to Kelly or I, we'll take care of it. If you have chosen to park anywhere else, you're on your own. The rest of the parking areas, it depends on the day, it depends on the show. For our artist series, yes, generally you can park just about anywhere. But every once in a while, I've had folks, park in a handicapped space that weren't handicapped and then want me to take care of the ticket. I can't help you with that. You can settle that up with the university. But as long as you're parking over there, I will say though, actually, let me clarify because this got a question at the first session. If you personally have a handicap sticker issued by the state, you may park in this parking lot at shows. I get that. You have a confirmed concern where you need to park closer. That's fine. But if you don't have the state-issued ID, then we need you parking across the way. And all you have to do then is, for our shows, we've got staff out there, and as long as you show them your tag or you've got the plate, they'll let you in. So that's fine if you've got the actual issued decal. But otherwise, please park in the B lot over there. Yep.
Because all the parking lots over there B, is there anything over there that's not B that we can't park in?
No, I mean specifically the right-hand turn is officially the B, the left-hand turn is an A. On the weekends, you're not going to have any issue, but on weeknights, if you end up in that A, you could have a problem. Because the B1 is the only one that they've promised us not to ticket. So. And this is also true for the daytime kaleidoscope shows. What we send them, in fact, Kelly sent it yesterday, the list of all the kaleidoscope shows for the year, we send over to the parking office, they make a note on their calendars, and on those kaleidoscope days, they do not ticket the B lot. And that's also where we have our guests that come in private cars, that's where they go as well. So that B lot over there, so we don't have to have parking permits anymore, thankfully. Because some of our folks were getting, 8, 9, 10 parking permits in the mail with their schedule. And we don't have to do that anymore. Parking was writing out, well, they were at hundreds of permits. That saved them several hundred permits when we changed that. Okay, showing up unassigned. This one surprised me a little bit last year, but we had several instances where folks would show up even though they weren't assigned, trying to sort of, I would say game the system a little bit. And I'm not saying everybody did this. There are legitly times where we've forgot to put your name on, and that's going to happen too. So obviously this is kind of an honor system sort of thing. I can't prove that we didn't have you scheduled. We make mistakes too, but I do know there are instances where folks were not scheduled and just tried to come because they wanted to see the show. Please don't do that. Believe it or not, we do take a look at all of our shows based on what we're expecting for sales and pick a number of how many ushers we think we need for that show. Obviously, it's not a perfect science because we reduce or we need to add more folks down the road. But we do put some thought into it. Now, I will also add that this is the one extra perk for floor captains. They get to come if they want to and haven't been assigned. But they know that they have to let us know. They have to email us or call us and say, hey, I want to come and help with that event. So floor captains get to do that as an extra perk for their extra effort and extra. They give us extra time, we give them an extra perk. That's fine, but the rest of the folks, and the same thing, if you can't make it, just let us know. We don't find subs, because invariably, when we're thinking about how many we need for a show, I'm also including a couple extra people because we know that we're going to lose people to illness or plans changing and stuff like that. So that's all factored in. And I can already tell you on Glee Club Saturday night and Nutcracker Sunday, we need extra help. I think for Nutcracker Sunday, I think it is, which will probably sell pretty well. I think we have 23 ushers, so we'll need to like double that. And the Nutcracker issue, I think, is that not a lot of excitement about the Nutcracker because we do it every couple of years, which I get, but still going to have probably 1,000 people here that day, so we will need a little more help. You'll find that out when you get your schedule. Okay, this last year in January, actually this year I guess it would be, in January we had the culmination of a multi-year project with the performances of Uncommon Sense. That was the first for the Gallagher Blue Dorn in that we commissioned a piece, which meant we put up a bunch of money and invested in the process of creating the show. That's something for wherever that show goes in the future, it will always credit the Gallagher Blue Dorn as being a part of its creation. The topic of the show was based on folks living on the autism spectrum. And if you saw the show or saw the performances, it was a very good piece, very interesting. Those that have family members touched on the autism spectrum or connected to got a lot out of it. And so one of the things we did in looking at that is we also looked at how inclusive our spaces are and how our performances. And we brought in a consultant to help us a little bit with that as well. And some of her suggestions were having spaces where folks could go, because folks on the autism spectrum sometimes being in large crowds, or sometimes they may have been fine getting here, but something in the performance that just makes them feel uncomfortable, and they need to get out of the room and just kind of get away. And so we call them quiet spaces, but not necessarily quiet, because it's like anything else. One thing doesn't fit all people. One quiet space isn't what every person on the autism spectrum needs. So it's just our approach, our attempt to do something a little bit more for them. So we have these little toy boxes, and they have like little things, fidgets or coloring books, crayons also. And what we've been more popular using them with is people with kids. Who end up, they thought it was a good idea to bring them, but it's just not holding their attention, and so they brought them out. So these are on every floor captain cart, so where we keep the programs. And know that, so if somebody comes out, they've got kids, or they've got someone who, just make sure that they know that this stuff is available, and offer it to them. And if they want any of these things, they can just take them. I'm not at all worried about whether or not we get them back. We had the consultant buy everything, and she bought a lot. Much more than I think we may need for years to come. So feel free to give these things out for folks if you think it would help them, or at least offer them, and know that we have them available. So, makes sense? I talked a lot longer than my 3 bullet points, didn't I? How are we doing on time? Very good. Okay. So before I get on to this one of the questions that was asked at the first one, that was a really great question at the first session last Thursday, was can you run through everybody's job as an usher? Because I think some people forget all the various things that they need to be doing. So I went ahead and kind of ran through it off the top of my head, and I'd like to do that again to make sure we get it recorded, but then also that all of you can hear it as well. So arrival, we start the usher meeting at the call time that is on your schedule. So please arrive early enough that you can get your coat off, checked in, and you're ready to have the meeting at that time. We have a short meeting there, 5 minutes or so, talk about all the things that we need to know for the specific show. And then we break off into our levels by floor, and the floor captain will share some additional information, and then also get people assigned to specific locations. Then there might be some program stuffing if we have that to do, or there could be other things. But once we get those done, then you get into your area that you've been assigned and take a couple of moments to kind of reacclimate yourself. It may be a month or so since you've last been up here at door 1 or something like that. Just make sure, come in, make sure the chairs aren't in disarray and everything's ready to go. You remember how the aisles are marked and the numbers are labeled. That's a little more important on the upper levels. You recall the boxes are different. And it's a lot of things to remember. So just take a moment to review those things. Then obviously we move on to seating people. We don't open the house until we get word from backstage that it's okay. So even if you heard at the Usher meeting that the doors open at 6:30, and it is 6:30, we don't open until we hear from the floor captain, house manager, that we're open. So open the house. And then when we're seating people, a reminder that we aren't just standing over at the door and saying, you go over there, you go over there, you go over there, you go over there, here's your program. Our level of service is that we take people to their seats. So if I were working door number 1 over here, I might stand here, because that makes sense. A little bit, depending on how busy it is. And then, may I see your tickets, please? And I say, okay, you're on the end of row D. So I'll walk them up to the row. You guys are going to be on these 4 seats right here on the end. Here's some programs. Have a good night. Enjoy the show. So it's walking folks to the end of the row. I wouldn't go so far as climbing down the row, because then you're going to have to climb back over them, something like that. But at the end of the row, showing them to their seats is the level of service that we want to provide. If you're the only usher, just do the best you can, obviously. They're gonna figure out what you're doing, and people are just gonna start waiting here until you're ready for them. And so you just keep doing what you can. The busier shows have more ushers, so that makes it easier. So, but we want to provide that level of service no matter the event, no matter the number of people. So do the best you can with that. At the intermission, again, we were just talking about that a couple slides ago. We do want you back at the door, actually throughout the show. So if someone should get up during the show and need to use the restroom or something like that, that's why you have your flashlight, to assist them through the doors in the dark. And it's easiest and best practice to wait for them out in the hallway, because if they just went to the bathroom, they're going to be back in a couple of minutes. So the best practice is to wait out in the hallway until they come back and then bring them back in. If it's been a few minutes, because you're not sure what's going on, but you're like, okay, I don't know if they're coming back, go ahead and come back in, but still be aware so that if they pop through that door, you can assist them. Yeah?
Do you let them immediately back in, or if it's a concert, do you wait till the end of a song to let them back in?
That's a very good point. I would say that kind of depends on the event. Obviously, with louder rock concerts, it doesn't so much matter. But yes, anything classically oriented, I would kind of just wait until there's an appropriate break, especially at these 2 doors. If you're in the back, I wouldn't worry as much about it, but yes, especially up front here, because anybody moving is a distraction. So like for a school of music, between pieces, for the symphonies, which can be a little bit longer, maybe there's a movement break or something like that. The other thing you could do is bring them just inside the door, but ask them to wait until there's a break to take them over to their seat. That's an excellent idea. So again, we're still kind of being aware throughout the show for anyone that might need assistance. At intermission, again, back at the door, you have the doors to prop open, but then there, if anyone should have questions, where's the restroom, where do I find this? This person over here is really annoying to poop out of me. Can you talk to them? Hopefully not really poop. That's not getting that. All reasons why we have folks out here to do customer service during the intermission. At the end of the intermission, getting the doors back closed again. For the second part of the show, same thing, being aware of folks who might need anything during the show or go out and come back. At the end of the show, again, opening the doors, assisting folks with disabilities that might be in your area. Thank folks for coming, wish them a good night. When all the people are gone out of your area, walking through the seats and picking up. Again, we're not the full cleaning crew. We have custodians that will come in and do that. We're picking up the larger pieces, the programs, the dropped bottles, that sort of stuff, and just taking them out to the nearest trash. We do have recycling down on the main level. I think was kind of new last year. I hope most people picked up on that. There's now a recycling bin over here next to the restrooms, and it's mixed recycling, so anything recycling going there. Programs, we still put those back in the boxes and do a massive recycling of programs when we're done with them. But anything other than programs that might be recyclable can go in the bins down here. And then that's it. Sounds easy, right? That's funny, yeah?
What about scanners? What is their role after they've got done scanning?
When scanners are done scanning, I would say check with the floor captain, but there are several different things I think they could do. They could help at a door. So like I'm thinking of smaller events where we use scanners. They might need an extra person at a door. They might just need some extra assistance in the lobby, helping direct folks to the restrooms and things like that. If you were a lobby scanner, I would go back to the lobby and look for people that might need help. I think they're a great kind of floater. If somebody had to leave early and we need to cover a door, that sort of thing. So it wouldn't hurt at all to check with the floor captain and see where can I best be of use during the show. And they can definitely find some ideas for you. That's a great question. Thank you. Yep.
You said to seat everyone. What about the people that are season ticket holders and know exactly what
I'm
is-
glad you said that. Yes. So, if you work the symphony or a few other shows, some folks have been sitting in the same seat for all 17 years of our existence. And they know exactly where they are. And they will very clearly tell you so. Sometimes nicely, sometimes not. So, again, the service for those folks is just smiling and say, oh, well, absolutely, here's the program. And if you have any questions, let me know. You don't have to force upon them that you need to seat them. The other thing I will point out, though, is keep an eye out, because invariably, while they normally always sit right here, for this specific show, they may have been off a seat or two because someone got ahead of them or something like that. So know that you may not have seen the end of them, because you may have somebody come for their seats because their seats are actually somewhere else. But just again, smile and work through that. I would say the symphony is the biggest case, but we have some of our tried and true patrons of our artist series as well that would do the same. So it was also that made me think of our seats, as you know, for several years now, they're wearing out. They were not top of the line when we opened the building. They're still not. In fact, now they're not even manufactured anymore. So we cannot buy replacement parts. What we have done is the 21 seats that used to be able to fill in that mixed position back there, they now don't exist in their entirety anymore, as they have been given out to all of the broken seats on this floor. We I believe, have exhausted most of the parts from there. We have now started to pull some from the sides and the back of the gallery. So somebody did point out that means sometimes you'll be going along in a row, 108, 109, 110, 12. So you have seats that are out of numerical order. We're going to have the front of house students walk through and kind of try to catch all of those and get them remarked. But that'll just be a temporary marking with a plastic label, so it won't be perfect and it might come off again. If you notice any of those, help us just try to keep them relabeled. But that's our temporary fix while we work on a more permanent solution. There is hope for both a seat replacement and for fixing some of the other things that the gallery glued in that have always kind of been a problem. So we are in the early stages. We're in what's called a feasibility study for an addition to the building. Right now it's looking like it could be about an $8.5 million project. It would be entirely privately funded, so $0 from the state. So that it would all be private donors. So the feasibility study has just been reactivated. I think I've got a meeting the end of next week where we talk to the architects again, because we ran into a snag over the summer. So while it was actually supposed to be done by now, it's only in step one. So we're going to get that regoing again in the first part of fall here, with the hopes that by the end of 2017, we would have a plan and some pretty pictures for how it might look, and we can begin the fundraising for it. It is all about restoring the patron services that were cut when they had to make cuts to make the building happen. So if you've heard Steve tell the story, back when they designed the building, they sent it out for bid and it came in a third over budget. So they had to, from the very beginning, make some changes to what they wanted. And they really preserved the acoustical integrity and the design integrity of this room right here. And they minimized a lot of other things. I learned from the architect that's working on this project that we are at code minimum for the number of bathroom fixtures. Does this surprise any of you? No. So we have the absolute minimum number of bathroom fixtures that we could have for a capacity of our size. So this addition to the building would be entirely on fixing those things. It would have larger bathrooms. It would have more bathrooms. It would have probably another room that we could do events in, large room. It's probably going to have a kind of a multi-purpose room that can be either a meeting space for ushers on the night of a show, or it could be a reception room, or it could do a outreach class. So anyway, that's very exciting and something we're working on. And if it goes through, it would be a big add to the services to our patrons. And that's really the main focus. Steve and all the kind of focus group stuff he's talked to has said this is all about patron services. And I think there is also talk of the seat replacement being maybe a part of that same project. So we'll see. It's likely going to be on this side of the building. It's likely going to be two tiers tall. And it may or may not do some other things to the front of the building. That's kind of what the architect is working on, the different ideas. Also, we've had some discussions about improving the kind of welcome mat of coming up to the building. Because right now, it's a pretty short drive to the door, and then traffic backs up. So there's even talk like maybe sort of kind of moving the natural entrance of everything to more the middle of the building, giving us more driveway to work with, maybe even doubling the lanes so that people can go around. Anyway, kind of improving and fixing some of the things that help with the patron experience. So we're really, $8.5 million, we're really looking at patron services. The timeline on that is a little up in the air, obviously, because we have to have the fundraising and see how the money comes through. But I know Steve has said he'd really love to have it as part of our celebration of 20 years. So that's coming up in 3-ish years. We'll see.
Chris?
Yep.
Will there be a first aid station in addition?
That's a good question. I know they're specifically looking at like family restrooms and stuff like that. I don't know if we'll have a full first aid station, but that's something to consider. I'll bring that to the table. Good question. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on. If you've got other questions on that specific thing, let us know. So, for the last several years now, we've talked about crowd management and our role as crowd managers. I've really tried to cut this down to just the bare essentials that we need to be sure to cover as reminders. We have covered this in detail over the last few years. But in the end, we're all crowd managers at the Gallery Blue Door. Crowd manager just means we're looking out for the safety of the folks in our space. So it's all of our jobs. And how do we do that? What are some ways that we do that? So what do you need to know? Report any unsafe conditions that you see around the Gallery Blue Door or in your area. Light bulbs burned out, things blocking hallways or doors, things not opening that should open, things opening that shouldn't open. Any sorts of things that you think might be a safety issue, please let us know so that we can get it reported if it's a bigger fix or if we can just fix it if we just need to move some things. This is very common on like a Broadway show. They're feverishly working to get a show up in 4 or 5 hours time, and they will sometimes leave a random road case sitting on the mezzanine or something like that. So report those things so we can get them fixed. Please don't, I would rather have 2 or 3 people tell me about an issue than someone think that it's already been reported and not say something. So if you notice it, please pass it along so that we make sure we get it covered. And know how to react in an emergency. For medical emergencies, we just want to give people more help. So if you yourself have some training as a nurse, or you got CPR training at work or whatever, respond however you're comfortable. And there are many folks that don't have any of that training, that's fine. Respond how you're comfortable. What we need to do is just get more help. So for sure, if you're the only one there, go find somebody who can get help. If you're not the only one there, you can stay with the person while someone else goes to get more help. If you can get to a floor captain with a radio, and we'll talk about this in a minute, just be specific and say, we had someone fall, and here's where I am, and here's what we're doing. Fire evacuation, we're going to practice that at the end as we need to for compliance, but obviously we always evacuate. As soon as we hear the alarm, we are going to evacuate. We're not going to wait and see why it's going off. and we'll get into more detail in a minute. And severe weather. We don't stay in this room because of the ceiling, and we don't think it would hold up if we had a tornado hit our building. So we do move into the basement for that, using the stairwell on that side, or there's some stairwells in the back. If you recall, we did tour that last year, and we still don't know how many people we could fit down there, thankfully. But hopefully most everybody. There are a couple places on this level too in the back that have been considered safe by the safety office here at UNI, so we have those options too. And then know how to prevent going over the occupancy limit in your area, and that's an awareness. The number of seats, and then if there's a person or two standing by your door, that would be acceptable. But we never put any chairs in the aisles, and we don't let people sit chairs in front of the doors. So like the usher chairs here are, back against the wall, not sitting out where they're obstructing folks. Actually, that one's out a little bit, but I think maybe we have an extra chair in the room here.
Chris?
Yep.
I did have a patron come in a wheelchair one time. It was a fracture with an immobilizer. She wanted to sit in the front with her leg out.
This is our ADA compliant area for things like that. So the question is, we had a person who used a wheelchair with a fracture, so she had her legs sticking straight out and it couldn't move. And I would say this is the best place for that. And then if there were an emergency, I would just say grab her first and push her out, because this is the best place and this is the place we've allocated for that. And I would say that the same is true. Sometimes folks will kick a leg out into the aisle or something like that. I'm concerned about furniture, chairs, people sticking the leg into the aisle. We got to get the people out anyway. So really, the concern is more if there's stuff. And the same thing here. So yeah, we also have people with larger chairs or whatever. Kind of have to punt a little bit up here sometimes when they bring in their large chairs or their foot sticking straight out or something like that. But we just try to keep it as safe as we can in that case. If they come in with a scooter or something like that, we have the tagging procedure for keeping that in the hallway or up the hall. And that's still true because, again, we're trying to keep it as free and open as possible in case we have an emergency. Okay, so I mentioned on the radio, if floor captains all have a radio, and so if you're communicating over the radio some sort of emergency, please be as specific as you can. So telling me, hey, I have a problem over here, is not going to help us get you any help. So say, this is Chris, I'm on the mezzanine by door 4, and somebody has fallen. That's going to give us enough information to get some help their way as quick as we can. If there are other key information that would be helpful, conscious or unconscious, because if someone's gone unconscious, then we want to get EMS services dispatched as fast as we can. If it's if anybody's bleeding or anything like that, those are all more things that are important to tell us as soon as possible so we can get more help to the area. Another question that comes up often is, or I was asked on last week, what if somebody comes, another patron is like, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, whatever. That's not for us to say. If they want to help and they're identifying that way, we're not going to stop them from doing so. But that's just up to them. We're not going to stand up here on stage and yell, is there a doctor in the house? We're going to call. We're going to call for assistance. Public safety is here within a minute or two. The EMS response from Sartor is pretty good, as long as they're not on another call. So that's going to be our protocol. How do I know if we need to evacuate? If the fire alarm sounds, we will evacuate. We will try to stop the show, but feel free to begin opening doors and inviting people to exit before the show stops. An announcement will be played from the stage, or somebody will make an announcement from the stage, and we do begin the evacuation immediately. We do not assume that anything is a false alarm. We begin evacuating right away. Any other kind of evacuation, and then how do we do the fire alarm? Prop open the doors of your area, assist those with special needs. One usher leads the group out, another usher stays and clears the area. If there's only one usher, then you lead the group. And we meet up on the Gilchrist lawn across the street, which is where we'll meet up a little bit later today.
Chris, is that still just a summer, springtime?
What we did for simplicity's sake is we're saying always meet over there. If we find that we're going to be out there for a while and not be able to return to the building, then we might go to another space. But we were trying to make it simpler so that people didn't have to think, oh, what day is today? Just get out of the building, meet up over there. If it is a false alarm, we're going to be able to return to the building rather quickly. And if it's not, then we'll either be dismissing people or try to move them to a different shelter area. Yep.
If we have people in a wheelchair, we put them in the stairwell, right? They can't go down the steps. If people would be in a wheelchair, is that what?
Right, well, we have a few different options, and we're going to review, we have the evac chairs, and we're going to review that a little bit later. But yes, and in some instances, the elevator will still operate. There's some confusion over all of those cases. The elevator and fire techs aren't even sure, but the way it's designed is it should still do some operating. So I'd say try the elevator. If that doesn't work, then we have the evac chair. And if that's not an option, then we park them in the elevator or park them in a stairwell because it's a safer place to be. And then the fire department can evacuate them from there. But depending on the instance of what's going on, some of those, like the elevator, might still work. The wheelchair lift, however, would not operate in a power failure situation. The rest of the building is wired into the emergency generator, but not this lift back here. So that's another reason why there's a stair evac chair back there. So just a note on directing folks, and we did have 2 instances this year where the fire alarm sounded during an event, and thankfully they went rather well. We're going to review them in a minute because we did learn some lessons. But one of the other things is we did not have really any panic, which is great. Folks generally just kind of were calm and waited for instructions. But really it's just kind of shepherding, aggressive shepherding, just please keep moving, move along. We don't want to scare people or yell at them. We're just trying to get them out quickly and urgently. What they will probably be a little bit confused about is why do we need to leave? And you can just say, our training is if the alarm is sounding, we evacuate. So please just start moving towards the doors. I was over at the Dome for the antique show a couple years back. Fire alarm went off, nobody moved. And I thought, this is a problem. Come to find out, there was an actual fire in the Dome. The garage door motor on that big garage door that's on the, what's that, north side, burned up and actually was putting smoke out and stuff, and that's why it was on fire, so it triggered the fire alarm. And it was small, it was contained, they put it out right away with the fire extinguisher, but nobody moved. And so that'll be the thing, is just convincing them that no, we really do have to move and get out of here will be your biggest challenge.
Chris?
Yep.
Are there different alarm sounds for like tornadoes?
No, our alarm will only sound one way and for a fire. For tornado, that would just be us communicating through the radio and spreading word. There is no building alarm system for anything other than fire. Yep. Good question. I talk a lot this, give calm, brief directions, loudly, firmly, repeatedly. I like this. This is borrowed, obviously, from the University of Northern Iowa. The university has a full crowd manager thing. Exaggerated but meaningful gestures. Or something like that. That's my example of exaggerated, meaningful gestures. That can be used in a safety situation. The other scenario would be a defend in place or remain in place scenario. This is what we've called it. Some people are also calling this active shooter kind of thing. Same idea. If there were some sort of safety concern like that on campus, the university police division responds. There's a whole university protocol where they activate a command center, and we would get in touch with them. But first, we would lock down. And how that basically works is we're going to close the door, secure them if we feel necessary, and remain until we get further instructions or are given an all clear. We would not prevent anybody from leaving at the beginning. So we would make an announcement of what we're about to do. People get to make the choice if they want to stay or take matters into their own hands, and then we go from there. But once we lock it down, we're locked down. Because if we were to open it, we would then be at risk to someone getting into the building who we don't want in. Now, obviously, we have a bunch of windows, so there's lots of different ways, but this is what has been established as a protocol for trying to remain safe. And as I said, staff would get in contact with the command center as quickly as possible to determine what the risk is and what we need to do, and go from there. Tornado stop the show and make an announcement. We move folks to the stairwells that go to the basement, and then we just remain in those areas until we get the all clear. Okay. Now let's review our couple of incidents that happened over this past year. So during the Orchard Gathering, which is coming up on almost a year ago, it was at the end of August, the fire alarm sounded during the event. The first one or second one? First one?
No, I take it back, second one.
Second one, all right. So we identified several problems. First of all, the alarm was silenced before the false alarm was confirmed. So there was other university staff in the building, and he didn't really know what he was doing at the fire panel. He pressed the button, and it stopped the alarm from making noise. The lights were still blinking. Stage staff from here at the Gallagher Blue Run gave bad information to the people on stage, who in turn told the crowd it was a false alarm and they could stay. So what happened was the stagehand was like, "Oh, I'm sure it's a false alarm, we'll get it figured out." And so then the guy on stage with the microphone was like, "Oh, no, just sit down, it's fine, it's a false alarm." Which we did not know. We did not know why the alarm was sounding, so that should not have been communicated. And then, in fact, our staff, our manager, Sean, actually came out here and kind of just loudly said to the crowd, "No, we need to evacuate, we don't know what's going on." So that was a concern. So what did we learn to do differently next time? We said we would train the ushers and tell them the following statement. If the fire alarm sounds, we evacuate, no exceptions. We do not make any assumptions that it's a false alarm. Is it likely a false alarm? Sure, but we don't care. At the moment the alarm starts sounding, we begin the evacuation. Ushers respond to the directions of the Gallagher personnel, not whoever's on stage with the microphone. So if in this case it was the pastor or whomever, so if they're given conflicting information from the stage, you don't listen to them. You continue to work on getting your folks out. That will make your job harder. But I would even, if it were me, I would say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm trained to take care of the situation. Get out. And will that work? No, they'll still probably go, "What? But he's the pastor." But I can also tell you that would probably very quickly be taking his microphone away from him and giving correct information. Only UNI police should operate the fire panel to silence and reset the alarm. So Gallagher staff have been reminded that it is not their role to take care of that. It is the UNI police who will come in and identify the source of the alarm. Doesn't mean we won't help them with that, but they will do the actual resetting and anything like that. The primary role of the Gallagher staff and the usher is evacuating, getting people out of the building. The next one was even more fun because it was a kaleidoscope show. So at the end of our shows on March 31st, and I don't even remember the show. Anyway, towards the end of the show, the alarm was activated by a pull box on the gallery up at door number 4. And it was at the start of the dismissal. So our theory is that a kid pulled it. We don't know, nobody was around there. By the time we figured it out, the kid was long gone. But that's our opinion. The bus dismissal continued from the stage. Ushers, for the most part, continued the dismissal procedure. Again, I want to reiterate, everybody remained very calm, which is good. Especially with the kids and the teachers. The ones I was most concerned about on Kaleidoscope Day are the teachers. I think the person who was least calm was probably me. Because I actually ran from my office to the fire alarm panel on the opposite side of the building, which I'm still not sure how I got there so quickly. And that caused some other problems, which we'll get to in a minute. GBPAC staff silenced the alarm upon learning there was no smoke on the gallery. That was me, and I shouldn't have done that. I was trying to get us back to a normal condition as quick as possible. A directive was given by GBPA staff, also me, to continue the dismissal as normal. Again, something I should not have done because we hadn't confirmed a false alarm and confirmed it with the police. Everyone did remain very calm, and this is noted and praised over and over in our review. So I'll take a side step to tell you that we do review all of these incidents as a staff, and in this particular one, we also brought in the safety fire officer for the university, Jason Kaiser. We did identify several things beyond training that we can do to improve the system. One of those is we've asked the university to install boxes over the fire alarm panel that they themselves have a little alarm in it. And it's more of a deterrent. Number one, it would deter them from opening it and pulling the alarm box unless there really was a fire, because when they open the first one, it's going to start squealing. And so a kid might be startled by that, and they're not going to reach in and pull the alarm. The other thing that does is if that little thing is squealing, we can audibly hear where the pull box has been activated. Because this one was labeled incorrectly, and it delayed our response to figuring out where it was. It was labeled wrong in the fire system. So anyway, we've asked them to look into that. Haven't seen anything yet, but that could happen. What else did we learn? So problems identified. The alarm is not treated as a real alarm, and staff maintain dismissal instead of evacuation. So by continuing to just dismiss folks, sure we were getting them out of the building, but that's not the fastest way to get them out of the building. The GPC staff led the identification to reset the alarm instead of UNI police. My bad. Communication was confusing with silence of the alarm and also staff working and evacuating on the same radio channel. So I identified it may work better if staff are going to assist the police department in searching for the source of the alarm, that we would switch to a different channel so that we're not interfering with the evacuation. And the alarm pull station is not labeled correctly in the fire alarm system.
But all in all, 8 did a marvelous.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody, and that's the other thing. I had to really compress it down to work it into the training because we could do a full 2 hours. In fact, the discussion that the staff had was easily 2 hours. So we do cover this in great detail. So yeah, I did not hand out a whole lot of praise, but everybody did a really good job. Again, remaining calm is the big key. We just, as we reviewed it, compared to the safety metrics and things, these are just things we've learned to improve upon. That we had 2 opportunities in this last year to do it is actually great. We've probably had only 2 other instances in the previous 8 or 9 years that we've had full evacuation during an event. So they are rare. And so we do take the opportunity to learn. But yeah, that's a good point. So what did we learn to do differently next time? Give clear instructions from the stage and begin evacuating immediately. So, if Amy were up there on stage, she would say, okay, at this time, please go follow your usher. So in that case, we were at the dismissal points while the ushers were in here. The ushers assigned to the numbers. If it happened at any other point in the show, we'd probably just continue with the folks that were assigned to the area. But if it were to happen again during a dismissal, then again, just grab the folks that have your number and take them on out. And we don't just go out the same doors. If you work Kaleidoscope, we kind of have our rules of, this stairwell goes to the gallery, this stairwell goes to the mezz. If we're talking about a fire evacuation, all bets are off. Just get them out. It's the nearest stairs, the nearest door, get them out of the building safely and quickly. So don't worry about any of those rules in that case. Yeah?
In that scenario, should it ever happen again, take them to the buses or take them to the evacuation?
We would probably just take them to the bus. I think we'd give those instructions as people were heading out, but if that exact scenario happened again, I think it's easiest just to take them to the bus. But as I say that, I can think of a few scenarios where I wouldn't do that. If it were any sort of bomb threat or anything, we'd want to get them further away from the building, so we wouldn't do that. But it's all case by case. Yep.
This is all well good, summer, spring, and fall, but what if it's dead of winter, it's really cold, you want to get their coats?
Do the best you can. I think if we're going outside, they probably should try to grab. Yeah. In normal fire circumstances, they say don't stop. So that's what I would advise. But if they're gonna grab their coat, they're gonna grab their coat. We're not gonna chase after them, other than advise them to just go. Yeah.
If this happens towards the beginning of the show, we wouldn't know where the buses are.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's only if it very specifically happens at the end of the show. Otherwise, just get your folks in your area out. And you're going to work with the teacher. I mean, the teacher's going to want to try to keep stuff together. So just work with them to get the kids clustered, how it works for them, and just get them out. The other thing is they can do a lot of that once we get out there. We're going to take them to a place to sort that all out. So. Okay. GBPAC staff's primary role is to lead the evacuation, so I'm going to come help you guys get them out and not run over to the fire panel. And then we must wait for UNI police response to determine false alarm and reset. Okay. Before we move on to the next thing, are any questions on the scenarios you ran through or pieces, if you were here that day? Anything you want to throw in? Cool. The other thing I wanted to review, it's been a couple of years since we talked about these, and so I wanted to refresh people's memory. We have 3 stair evacuation chairs in the building, and they are a tool that can be used in emergency to evacuate someone who uses a wheelchair and cannot use the stairs. As we reviewed a minute ago, it's just one of the options. It is not the only option. It is not necessarily the best option. But we want to make sure everyone is aware of all the tools that are available. Everyone is going to have different levels of comfort with their assistance with this, but I want to make sure that people know where they are and how they work, so that in an emergency you'd have that information. So where are they? We have one on the mezzanine and one on the gallery. And they're located just outside of these doors, next to the stairwell that's right out there. This would be down where the floor captain card is, past the restrooms, almost to the window. And you'll see I have a short video here, and you'll see a cabinet on the wall. We have the cabinet. It's identical to what you see in the video, even though the video is from like 1985. The cabinet looks the same, the chair looks the same. So it's a good refresher of that. We also have a third one right through that door next to the wheelchair lift. Because if anybody were in the back there, they wouldn't be able to get down those stairs in the back in the emergency. And in that case, if it was a power failure sort of thing, that lift wouldn't work. This is specifically reserved for folks that use a wheelchair and cannot walk or anything like that. And the video is also designed for like a school where the kids in class that are going to need help. So it says now practice with the person who's going to. And it's well, obviously we can't do that because it could be anyone. But it gives you a little bit of understanding of it. So, hey Eugene, since you're back there, do you want to switch it over for me?
Now it's time for some hands-on training. As you've seen, Evacutrack folds up for efficient storage. After removing Evacutrack from the cabinet, grasp and pull the handle out and up. You'll hear a distinct click as the locking mechanism engages. Check the indicator window to confirm that the seat latch is locked. The indicator window should be completely blue. Now, transfer the passenger. EvacuTrack is designed to accommodate a variety of situations, and passengers may have a wide range of disabilities. People in wheelchairs may or may not have the use of their arms. Others may have physical needs requiring special attention. Operators and their passengers should work together to develop the best procedure for getting into and out of EvacuTrack. In some cases, such as transfer of quadriplegic passengers, an extra attendant may be required. You may find it beneficial to consult an occupational therapist to determine the best method of transfer. Wrap the safety straps securely around the passenger's body. In an actual emergency, you would wrap the passenger's arms inside the safety straps if the passenger was injured or had no control of their arms. In the case of a small passenger, such as a child, use only the lower torso strap. To roll EvacuTrack on a flat surface, press down on the handle to take weight off the front of the unit and squeeze the brake release bar with both hands. Squeezing the bar lowers the front wheels into their operating position, making EvacuTrack easier to push. Do not attempt to lower the front wheels without first pushing down on the handle. This may stretch the brake cable. To turn EvacuTrack on flat surfaces, push down on the handle and pivot EvacuTrack on the rear wheels. Push EvacuTrack towards the stairs. Approach the top step at a right angle. We recommend you position EvacuTrack on the inside of the stairway to allow room for other traffic on the stairway and to make it easier to turn corners at stairway landings. Push EvacuTrack forward until the front wheels roll off the top step. At this point, EvacuTrack will stop automatically when the tracks make contact with the stair nose. Release your grip on the brake release bar. This will engage the parking brake and ensure EvacuTrack does not begin to descend the stairway until you are ready. Lift the handle to tilt EvacuTrack forward until it's at the same angle as the stairway. The EvacuTrack parking brake is still engaged. To descend the stairs, release the brake by slowly squeezing the brake release bar. A governor limits the maximum descent speed to about 3 feet per second. Reducing pressure on the brake release lever so it is partially engaged will further slow the descent speed. When approaching the stairway landing, press the handle down to move EvacuTrack onto the flat surface. Pivot on the rear wheels to turn the corner and align EvacuTrack with the next flight of stairs. Lift the handle and squeeze the brake release bar as before. To stop EvacuTrack on the stairway, slowly release the brake release bar. This may be necessary to allow other stairway traffic to pass or to clear an obstruction. When you reach the bottom of the stairway, press the handle down to move the EvacuTrack onto the flat surface. Then push EvacuTrack away from the stairway and clear of any possible danger. During an actual emergency, the passenger can remain in the comfort and safety of EvacuTrack until a wheelchair or other transportation can be arranged. Repeat this practice drill until both operator and passenger feel totally familiar with the procedure. Then trade places to allow the assistant to become a proficient operator as well. Once you're both proficient at operating EvacuTrack, practice again with the disabled passenger who will be using the EvacuTrack during an actual emergency. When the practice session is completed, unlock the seat latch by pushing down on the red bar under the seat. Fold EvacuTrack closed and replace it at the top of the stairway, ready for emergency use.
Everybody an expert?
The only thing I have concerns is that there's people that can't even get out of their wheelchair.
Yeah, it's not a perfect solution. I agree. I mean, one of the issues that we have that's a little bit different is, we're open to the general public. So we could have, who knows, there's a ton of different scenarios. It's just another tool in the toolbox for helping in an emergency. So if the person is not comfortable being transferred, it's not an option. I would say, depending on their ability level, obviously the folks demoing it both had use of their legs. And so, they can help get themselves in there. But if it's someone who, doesn't have use of their legs or doesn't have use of one leg, it is going to be a concern. So, like I say, it's just another option. You would likely, I think in our scenarios, you would need definitely more than just one person. This is more to prove to you that it can be operated by one person. But I think specifically with the transfer, I would love to have an extra helper or their caretaker to help with that. Same thing we do with kind of helping transfer them into a chair, where you're really just kind of there to help, ask them what sort of help. But yeah, if in the end, it's not going to be any safer to try to move them than just getting them in a safe spot and getting professional rescue staff to get them would be a better option in that case. So, yep.
If the caretaker knows how to use that, can we turn it over to them?
Absolutely. And there's actually a little card on the Evacutrack. There's a little card on it that is the basic operation. This is also this Evacutrack, and then I've used one other one called as a Striker model, which I actually like the other one better, but I think this one's cheaper. The university, by the way, bought all of these for us through some grant funding and things like that. So these are in buildings all over campus. I think they ordered we had one as part of the first round, and then they ramped it up, and they bought us 2 more. And at that point, they bought like 40 of them and put them in buildings all over campus. So this is the one that campus uses throughout. And so if you happen to be in an emergency situation in some other building, you have a leg up on many of the people there. Because I think we're probably the only ones actually using the training. We do have a couple of the devices out here. If it's something that does interest you and you want to take a look at it or play with it, or I think Emily volunteered to ride in it if anybody wanted to go down the stairs with it. I think a couple of things that generally when you think about the concept of it, I think people are afraid of, what if the person's larger than me and the chair is built to handle all of that. So you talked about some of the technology, but I've sat in it, and I'm not small, and I've had them let go of me and sit in the middle of the stairs, and it doesn't move. And so, it really is designed for all of that. And they can't get away from you. It's not like you're pushing a cart that's going to just keep on running. This has all those different mechanisms in place. So I would say they've thought of all of that as far as those concerns. But again, it's all about the person. Just like we would never go up and grab somebody's wheelchair and just push them. We would ask, can I help you out? And that's the same thing in emergency, by the way. Don't just grab your wheelchair and push. Remember, that's like grabbing their body, which we would never do. Always ask. Same thing with this. If they're not comfortable getting transferred into it, then it's not an option. Okay, yep.
One question on evacuation. So we have a performance, and we have wheelchairs and walkers that are out here. We've got to get people out. Process.
I would prioritize them first because for 2 reasons. Number 1, they're harder to get out, and number 2, they're blocking the way for the other people to get out. So I would first grab. So if there's extra people, if you were in the lobby and you heard the alarm go off, come to one of these doors and help. And so we would prioritize getting the special needs folks out so that we can get them out of the way. Because the other thing is some of these other folks could turn and head out that door if it clears up. Those that are able-bodied. So we would just do the best we can to get them cleared out of the way. But that's what I would do first. I would get the special needs folks first. Go grab their walkers and wheelchairs and whatever, and just get them out as quick as you can. Cool.
Question.
Yep.
Would you go over the policy on water bottles and that kind of stuff for this year?
Yes, that's a great question. The question is review the policy on water bottles and food and whatever in the hall. So last year we adopted anything that they bought here they could take in. We also, partway through the year, catering started experimenting with a new product, the wine that comes in the individual glasses, and nobody likes it. It spills and it just doesn't work. So My belief is we will transition away from the wine anyway, and I'll get into that more updated later. But our plan is to continue, and I say our plan because the whole stuff of catering is still kind of going through an updating process. Our plan over the course of the semester is to finalize all of that, but I do anticipate that we will continue to allow any food and beverage purchased here to come into the hall. We will likely go back to serving wine in the plastic cups, the lids, which I believe to be less of a spill concern than those other things. And also, apparently the wine sucked too. I don't know. I don't drink a lot of wine, but that's what I was told. So anyway, so that relates to catering. The Gallagher and the catering staff have been challenged in working with one another over the past several months. We're working through a process to improve that so that hopefully the Gallagher can improve service to the patrons and also accomplish several other goals that we have. And then the catering staff, they've operated the service to us mostly at a loss for several years. And so obviously financially that's not really fair to them. So we kind of twofold. We want to improve the service and we think we can also make it something that generates revenue instead of costs money. But as a part of that, we will likely stick with if they bought it here, they can bring it in. And that generally means that the only reason I phrase it that way versus they can bring in whatever they want is I really don't want them bringing in their personal stuff and eating it here like some people might do at the movie theater. I would never do that. Some people bring in bags of items in their oversized purse or something like that. We want to discourage that. We would prefer that they be buying the items here. But that's the plan. Also, it means we will hopefully be upgrading the service points. We are the ATM is gone. Viridian decided it cost them too much money, and so they said they're taking it away. I've tried to reach out to a couple of companies about getting it back, but the truth is the volume isn't fantastic, so we have to figure out a way. We'll keep working on that. We will try to get an ATM back in here. In the meantime, we've been working with catering to make sure that they always accept credit cards. We've also identified that we need a whole system to process catering orders and cards faster. So we're continuing to work on that process. It will likely be, I think, most of this semester, but it might even include some tastings and things like that. So again, I would renew, I think I said this last year, please share with us any feedback you're hearing from patrons about the food and beverage service. Good, bad, otherwise, all of the above. And that will help us in the process. So, yes?
What about many of the patrons in the gallery, they want something there. Mostly they have come down to mezzanine or down.
Yes, I've already thrown into the mix that for sold out shows, I think we need to get a purchase point up on the gallery. Yeah, and the other thing is to accept credit cards faster, we need to get, actual wired connections in all those spaces. So there was a big meeting while I was on vacation. There was a big meeting between the Gallagher staff and the dining staff. And the next step is we're creating a task force of operational people like Kelly and me, the operational people from the catering side. And we're going to develop a list of things we can do quickly to implement to improve the service. High on that list is going to be developing a consistent menu, getting better menu type item, like TVs basically for menu boards, and processing transactions faster, that sort of thing. So we're going to work on that a lot. Our goal right now is to have a big rollout we can be proud of come 1st of 2018. So January-ish. Yep.
I do know in cleaning up, the beer cans are not the easiest when they're not empty.
When they're half full. Yeah, a couple of the shows, and we'll probably have a couple of this year, but especially when it's like more of a rock show or music type. Like the one time, Josh Thompson is the one I can think of, and this place was trashed, but we made good money that night. So I would kind of put that in, On nights when it's really dirty, and we know that we're gonna have a cleaning crew come through here and take care of it. So if there's a ton of half-drank beer cans, stuff like that, don't worry about it. We're gonna have the cleaning crew come through and take care of it with a bucket.
If you're not finishing their beer, we're not charging you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the dome is charging about $8 or $9 for it's a larger size, but no, I think we're only charging 3 or 4. Yeah, I don't even know. So that didn't even come up with the last one. I'll have to make them watch the video. All right, any other last minute questions? Otherwise, we are right on time for a fire drill. Yeah.
I feel a little uncomfortable when we're told that they can't take a photo, and so you go over and tell somebody that they're taking, that please, that they can't take photos. But then you see people down below, they can see people down below taking photos, and I feel bad for that,
Yeah. So the question is about photos and how it feels bad because we're telling somebody to stop, but they can see lots of other people taking photos. This is, as we all know, a much bigger problem with everyone having a camera in their pocket, basically, a phone. And I would say a lot of shows are getting more lax on it too. We've gone from no camera. 4 or 5 years ago, we would have said no cameras. And by and large anymore, we're saying no professional cameras is what a lot of shows are saying. So I think you're finding shows being a little more lenient. And I would also remind, it's always case by case. If you think you're going to make a bigger scene by going to tell them to stop taking the photo, then it's not really worth it.
Plus, a lot of shows like it when you share it on Facebook. It's like
Yeah.
publicity for them too.
And I think that the biggest shows where it is when it's creating the biggest. So I would say if you're noticing that a lot of other folks are taking pictures, I wouldn't worry that much about it unless we were, so we're gonna give a policy based on what the show tells us, but then they also give us feedback during the show. So if they're a super strict camera policy, we're gonna reiterate the super strict policy at the meeting. And then we're probably going to get told anytime they see a camera and have to come out. So that's one end of the spectrum. If we generally just said, if we said no professional photos, phones are okay, then we shouldn't have much of a deal. But if we did say no photos at all, we would, again, just do our best to tell them to stop. If you notice lots of others, at that point I probably wouldn't go back and tell them again unless we heard something from the, floor captains came around and said, hey, we gotta really hit the cameras again.
Yeah, just like at last dance recital, they said no photos because we have a professional taking.
Oh yeah. I'm glad you mentioned dance recital, because now I can tell a fun story. My daughter is in Allison's dance company, which is over here in the university, and they did their dance recital over at Waterloo West. I'm happy to announce they're coming to the gallery next year, and I had nothing to do with it. They called me up out of the blue. They didn't even know my kid went there. So that's fun. But anyway, I'm over at Waterloo West, and they said all over, no pictures, no pictures, no pictures. Well, my grandparents couldn't come, and so I was going to take a short little video of Jen dancing, so I pull out my phone. And one of their volunteer ushers comes up and very loudly says, "Sir, no pictures." And I was like, oh. And of course, my family will never let me forget it because I should know better. And I said, in my building, we generally don't care much about phones anymore. But that's true. Everybody does it differently. And the dance studios do it for that exact reason. They have a professional video, they have professional photos and stuff taken. And so I think we try to enforce their policy, but we can only go so far. So, but I know exactly what you're saying because I would feel the same way, like, okay, so here I am doing my job, and that usher down there is not doing anything. Well, it's kind of the best we can do, unfortunately.
I just felt bad.
Yeah. I felt bad because then I didn't get the professional copy of the video until like 4th of July, and it was in April. So like I had nothing to show. Well, I did because I had like a minute and a half before he told me to stop. But I had nothing to show great grandma until the video came in July. So, my fleet.
Yeah, some of them, people use it. That's what I think is not right when they say those video games or when they have this video game on their the music, is that right? Can we say it's popular?
Sorry, I only got part of that, that's why I'm moving. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so she's talking about videotaping, and generally when even the rock shows are okay with the pictures, they're not okay with video, and it's for exactly the reason of the music. So again, that's kind of, we go on the guidance of what the show says. Some of them want us to be more strict than others. And we'll, that's something I try to ask them to be more specific anymore, and get more detail on just what they want us to do. And I would say 9 times out of 10 now they're saying no professional lenses, no iPads because they're large, and no recording. So if we did notice somebody recording, which is holding the phone up longer than just taking a couple pictures, again, we're first line of defense. We're just asking them to please stop. If they continue, I would maybe give them another ask, and then beyond that, we could talk to security or house manager or somebody we can come in and be more forceful with them. But that's a lot of that guidance is going to come from the show. What's a little harder for us is that every show is different, and so it's harder for us to crack down on that. And I would say we also have a student population that's going to be very into the phone. We're also, in some cases, we want that stuff to be out there in Facebook and Twitter land to promote the show. So yeah, that's I guess in the end, that's always going to be a hard one. And we just got to keep doing the best we can. I don't have any end-all be-all words of advice there. Yep.
What about texting, people that sit there and text?
I would say, again, if someone's complaining about it to you, that would be something to ask them to, yeah.
Do most of the shows know that we have an announcement that can be made, or can you do 2 different announcements? One, no photography, blah, 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 and one, please no big iPads, professional cameras, otherwise cell phones are fine.
We'll check on that because I don't know that the School of Music has one. I don't know that we have one for our stuff. Shows sometimes bring their own.
I thought we had.
We've got a fire safety one for sure. I'll have to check on if it talks about that.
Voice was reported about no.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's included in it.
But maybe another one for the people that say that something.
Yeah.
Because that makes our job a lot
Yeah,
easier.
when it's in the announcement. Okay, yeah, I'll look into that. Maybe we can record a few different versions for when it changes. Yep.
Well, at the Texas Tenors performance, I ushered and they were allowing pictures and stuff, but when they came to the one that was supposed to be released, they asked everybody to put all cell phones, and I looked out over the audience and everybody closed.
Yep.
And
Yeah, and if they're really, and I would say shows that are really concerned about it will generally make their own announcement as well, even if we made one or not. And that's really the most effective way. So I think I'll look into. I mean, I probably haven't been in here to hear Steve's announcement. So we've got it recorded. We'll check it, and maybe we can add some different language or record a few different versions, and we can get more of that accomplished with the recording. Okay, we need to move on because this is right in our scheduled time for. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, that's a good point, and we do 2 different call times. We do it 15 minutes shorter for some of our non-ticketed shows and school musics and stuff like that. And a couple of years ago, we did play a little bit with the artist series shows. And what we find is because there's a larger number of ushers, getting them all checked in and everything, that it really kind of caused some issues. So we do try to be mindful of that when we set the schedule. And we still sometimes get it wrong and have people here too long. But we do try to be mindful of that. So we're trying to keep that. The other thing is we understand, we went to 7 o'clock show times and we stuck with that this year. But that does make it a little bit harder for folks that are coming from work to make that, 5:45 call time then. Again, as we said, just the best you can do, and we'll continue to look at that for options where we can be efficient use of your time. Thank you. Yep.
Did you happen to put a minimum age for kaleidoscope homeschoolers?
Not that I'm aware of. Thank you. Not to my knowledge. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do today is our annual fire drill for the Usher safety staff, which is all of you. So did everybody get a little red card? Okay, so the little red card is your pop quiz. On that is you might recognize a seat location area of the Great Hall. And we didn't train any of that this year, if you noticed. We decided to leave it out. We've covered it every year for the last 5. So here's your pop quiz. That is a seat location, section location. For the fire drill, we'd like you to go to that location. And once everybody is up in those locations, we will sound the fire alarm. When you hear the fire alarm, please exit the building, nearest stairs to the nearest door outside. This is now, I think, the 3rd year we've done this as a large group. So feel free to get creative and go out a door you've not gone out before, and to give you a better experience. We will gather in the grassy area over by Gilchrist Hall outside. And once I reset the alarm, I'll come out there and join you, and we will wrap up from there. So if you have purses, bags, whatever, feel free to take them with you. We will not come back into the Great Hall. Oh yes, on the upper levels, only door 5 is unlocked. So head on up over this way and then distribute from there. Okay? All right, break.